So, welcome back to another episode of Team Talks. I'm delighted to have three very special guests with me today. The format of this show is very simple. It's like our own personal dressing room huddle. The idea is everyone brings a question. We're going to share some words of wisdom. Before we start, I'm going to start with introductions. So, to my left, we have
the one and only,
the original.
Steve Cole from NetPrimates, business IT and cyber security for business around Hampshire primarily, but also dealing with customers around the UK.
Nice.
Richard Martin from Blue Shield Cleaning. We clean anything on the outside of buildings, and we're lucky enough to cover the whole of the UK.
Okay. I'm Jeremy Over. I work with entrepreneurs and owners of privately held businesses, and I help them grow their business through acquisition, disposal and fundraising, and I am a corporate lawyer.
Nice. Thanks, gents. Right, let's kick off with our first question. Jeremy, let's start with you. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
So life as business is full of ups and downs. How do you maintain your motivation levels when you're just not feeling it?
Okay. Steve?
I looked at the question. I was thinking, I try and do a mix my day and my week and try and have fun along the way. So obviously a lot of my work is quite serious, keeping me up at night around cyber security and making sure customers are nice and secure, and there's lots of vulnerabilities out there. So there's a lot of mix of going to the pub, spending a lot of time with my friends, but also do a lot of travel through business as well. So I find that's quite a reset for me from a point of view of, even though I'm often going to a business event on the other side of the pond or up the road or something like that, actually immersing myself with other people in my industry, sharing what we're doing in there to help us improve personally, but also help us improve our customers' security and business IT. So I find that helps me maintain my motivation, because I still enjoy what I do. There are some days where I don't necessarily enjoy it.
So it sounds to me like you get a lot of motivation from your peers.
Yeah.
And also you get a lot of motivation from just mixing it up a lot.
Yes. Yeah, I mean...
So things don't become monotonous.
Yeah. So, for example, I travel to the US quite a lot. A lot of our vendors run events in the US. So I'm immersed in around vendors, but I'm also immersed with other peers, so other IT companies, other people in our space, but from the other side of the world. So you can be quite open and share a lot of stuff going on, because they know you're not fundamentally there to steal their business. So it's interesting, even round at lunch, you start talking to somebody you've never spoken to, but actually you end up finding you've got the same challenges, or you've got, this, that and the other, and actually you can find some good responses from them. So I enjoyed that, and that really does. I come away from those events feeling quite a lot of reward and stuff like that.
That's how stoke your fire. Talking motivation. Okay. Nice, Richard.
Yeah, I've got a slightly different tact on how to keep myself motivated, to be honest with you, and that is everybody talks about the journey of business, and most business owners look at that journey as being a very personal thing. I actually don't. I look at that journey being my whole team's journey. So the motivation for me is not money, it's how well my team are doing. Every single one of my employees has come from a background that is either slightly colourful or slightly disadvantaged, and watching somebody that, for argument's sake, that was had his interview from the back of his car, that's where he was living at the time, watching him grow day by day to the point where he now is in a rented accommodation. He has a wife, they're looking at having a child. It's a 2-year journey that's been for the guy. That keeps me really motivated. To the other end of the spectrum, having a guy that couldn't afford to put shoes on his kids' feet, and I mean real shoes, he was buying second-hand shoes, and he sat in the van with me and cried because he couldn't afford shoes. And we looked at his life, we've changed it around, he's put in so much hard work, and I always remember the day that he actually came back to me with a receipt for some Clark's shoes for his 2 kids and said, I managed to buy 2 pairs of new Clark's shoes, right? That's massive. that's such a big motivational tool. So it's really hard. I've only got 14 guys working for me, right? So I'm not huge, but it is really hard to become unmotivated when you look at those 14 people and their families and their children. It's so powerful. So yeah, I still get down days. Everybody wakes up in the morning and thinks, why am I doing this? But then I actually realised that when I spoke to X, Y or Z the day before, they were having such a bad day, and actually they've managed to swing it around, and so can I. So it's people that does it for me.
It's great fuel, isn't it? Like contributing to others and having that, you're having that, positive impact on their lives, and that just, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's for me, it's the best.
Yeah.
Growth for me isn't about how much money I make, it's about how many more people can I give a sturdy job to.
Yeah, contribution to others. Love that. Jeremy, I know it was your question, but
Yeah.
like in terms of...
Yeah, so I think, as you said, you have good days and bad days sometimes, but actually when you're having a bad day, for me, I'll come back to why I do what I do, finding your why. And for me, that's helping my clients succeed and helping my team succeed, helping people succeed. Now, that might be because I've helped a client realise years and years and years of hard graft and to bring that all to fruition, and I've helped him sell his business and I've made him a millionaire. Or it might be helping a member of my team with career progression and working with them to actually get them to where they want to be. So I think finding your why is a really important aspect of it. Another important aspect is sometimes you've just got to dig deep and really just keep going, which of course is easier said than done. But I think if you can build that resilience and build that inner strength, you find a way to keep going, not least because, as you said, if you've got a responsibility to your other team members, there's no other choice. You have to keep going because a lot rests on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And you've just got to keep on moving forward. And finally, just on a practical level, it sounds really stupid, but sometimes if you're struggling for motivation, it can even be as simple as just, what do I need to get done today? And writing a list and actually having that sense of achievement at the end when I've actually got through that list of things that I had to do. And in that way, you can tangibly and practically feel as though you actually are moving forward.
Nice. So I got to-do lists. Great. Like obviously finding your passion and why, fulfillment to others, variety, your peers. I think one thing from a motivation perspective that I try to tap into sometimes is regret. So I find that fuels me quite a lot. If I think about it in the morning, like the odds of being alive, I wish I do a lot because I like gratitude. It makes me feel nice about this gift of life, but also I don't want to ruin it or waste it. So like I want to do my best, and I find that quite motivating as a thought process, as well as like being competitive and contributing to others. And nothing like thinking about the home fans in the stadium, like your kids and your family like cheering you on, and all the people that I heard Tom Brady. You heard of Tom Brady?
Yeah.
The American quarterback. Like he's been on Netflix recently for being roasted, but he had this saying, I heard this in sports, like you pay for the name on the front, not the one on the back, which makes a lot of sense, right? We're on the same team. But he also said, no, I do pay for the one on the back as well. Because like, for example, Williams, a lot of people put a lot of love into, a lot of support into the name on the back. So I pay for them as well as like Bizpedia, the name on the front. So it's interesting, isn't it, how we all kind of like stoke our fires to go out and go out in our day-to-day lives and perform at the highest level, which being around this table, you all clearly do. Actually, I'm just going to use that as a segue into my question around, because obviously it's a little bit around motivation, but for each of you, when has been the most difficult part of your career business-wise where you've had to demonstrate sort of like bravery and courage to overcome? Or even like just, sitting back and being like, what was the toughest part of your career? It'd be really interesting to hear those war stories from each of you. Bit of male vulnerability on a Tuesday afternoon.
I think to answer that, I think it's a lot of it is about stepping outside your comfort zone and looking for opportunities to do that. Because when you do that, that gives you a pathway to grow. What's one example of how I did that once? Well, when I was asked to step up and lead the corporate team at the firm that I'm at, that was a big step outside of my comfort zone. But I wasn't not going to do it because it was a huge growth opportunity. And when I look back, I've definitely have come a long way. But I think you can always dwell on what you've done and congratulate yourself. But actually, in order to continue to grow and continue to move forward, it's about stepping outside your comfort zone and really embracing those opportunities to grow and develop.
Nice. Richard?
Yeah, I think I'd definitely agree with that. I mean, my biggest, the biggest thing that's taken the most courage from me was actually starting my own business, moving from being in a place where I was being paid a really good salary for a Monday to Friday job, with the safety blanket that gives, to moving into a business where I'm employing people and I'm expected to pay wages, and where's the money coming from? Bearing in mind that we started the first day that COVID hit in the UK, and we're an exterior cleaning business, and we had no customer base. My story is quite an interesting one. I went to Marbella on a business retreat. I didn't know half of the people there, and I met Jonathan, my now business partner, around a swimming pool. And after a 30-minute conversation, I decided that that's the guy that I wanted to work with. And very simply, after that conversation, he asked me how much it would cost to start the business up. And within 2 or 3 days, the money was in my bank account and the journey began. But it meant turning down 5 other opportunities that were all £100,000 a year plus jobs. That is quite a substantial amount of money when you have a young family, as I had at the time. And it was having the courage to move into an area that I knew, but I didn't know that I'd be a decent business owner. I've never had to do it. I've run businesses, but it's a different kettle of fish when it comes to actually owning the business and having that responsibility on your shoulders. So courage-wise, that was definitely my biggest point. And from there on, there are always, as you say, bunny hops that you need to straddle on the journey of being a business owner.
Never stops, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for sharing. Steve, anything that springs to mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was fortunate enough when I started the business. I was coming out of an internet service provider company where it had actually just been bought, and I was a shareholder. So, fortunately, my business partner and I at the time, who also worked for that company, we'd sold our shares. We decided we didn't want to be a number. So we talked about setting up this company for a little while, and literally probably within 2 or 3 months of selling out the other business, we resigned and started doing this full time. So, but we were fortunate enough because obviously we'd had some capital, we had some money to start off with, which covered both our wages effectively for 2 years. There were, even though we weren't competing, it was a different kind of business. There were some people that we knew, so we had some customers kind of day one. But if I look back, actually walking down the corridor to resign, the new MD at the time, when we walked into the room, he both looked at us and went, "You're resigning, aren't you?" And I went, "Yeah." And actually, Matt at the time, his son was only 6 weeks old, his second son. He phoned up his wife and went, "Steve's resigning today, can I resign too?" So I think, that was an interesting time. But looking back, I don't regret it. And there's been some ups and downs along the journey with Net Primates. Set up another business with my business partner and another guy, and that got bought in 2017. And at that time, my business partner at the time decided he wanted to become an employee of that business, and that blindsided me a little bit. And obviously the courage to work around that. But you learn from stuff, you move on from it. And at the same time, I bought another IT company around the same time. So the whole, as soon as you employ your first member of staff, it's that you've got the responsibility of looking after them. And luckily, my first member of staff, he was living at home with his parents still at the time. But as we've grown, I've got members of staff that have got family, kids, houses, mortgages, cars, everything like that. So it is a responsibility. So I'd say that for me.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to also, I'm not going fast through these, but I will bring some other questions in, but I'm going to go to yours because I think that segues perfectly into, we're talking about courage, we're talking about responsibility, we've spoken about motivation, but part of the business leader journey is your question.
Yeah, so my question was, how do you switch off?
Yeah, switching off is the hardest thing, isn't it? So one of the things that we have as part of our business model is keeping very low overheads. That means that we have an office in the bottom of the garden, but that's not going to be the case anymore. We're just looking at buying a new unit, but having an office at the bottom of the garden sounds fantastic. It's really, really bad. It's really bad because it means that you're there 24/7 and it doesn't matter. How do I switch off? I have a manager and I delegate a lot. And
That's an art in itself, isn't it?
it's very hard to do. It's very hard to let go to begin with. But having a really good manager that can do everything bar the very most senior decisions, it's life-changing. I wouldn't say I switch my phone off, but every night I put my phone on to flight mode at 10:30 at night. Nobody can get hold of me until 8 o'clock the following morning. I am up working from 6 o'clock onwards, but between the hours of 6 and 8 in the morning, that's my time to get the most done that I can. My phone stays off. There are a few select people that have a dedicated number that they can get through to in case of an emergency, but I don't honestly think that I can say that I do switch off, not fully. I think I'd be lying if I said I did.
Yeah, and I think that's real honesty. I think some great tactics there, though, delegation and obviously the flight mode and making sure that you can't be distracted when you need to be. Jeremy?
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? Because one of the things that you've just touched on there is the probably what I would call the COVID phenomenon, where now working from home, working remotely, working digitally, that is just part and parcel now of working life. And so I think it is more challenging than ever to try and find ways of switching off. For my part, it's a bit predictable, but actually I find exercise as a means of switching off, and I just put my headphones in. I'll listen to a podcast. Obviously, it'll be the Bizpedia podcast, of course. And I'll just go out running or go out cycling and just try and focus on anything other than work. But it is really, really hard to switch off, and I think we can all probably identify with the scenario of waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and your mind starting to race away. And on the back of that, it's very, very difficult to then get back to sleep. So switching off is really hard. All I would say is find a way that works for you. There's lots of different ways. I've even been experimenting a little bit with mindfulness. Not huge amounts of success, but it's something that I'd like to try and get more into. And I know other people are really much more heavily into that and able to use that as a fantastic tool to help them take their minds off the day-to-day.
What sort of stuff are you trying? Like meditation or?
So yeah, meditation podcasts.
Yeah.
Is the main one really, and yeah, there's one meditation podcast that I use actually as a cure for insomnia more than anything, and it sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. But what's really interesting about that is it teaches you techniques, or tries to help you deploy techniques around disconnecting, basically being in the moment, so disconnecting what's happening in your life with what's actually happening now, and trying to keep things in perspective, because it's very easy for your mind just to get just to run away with itself sometimes, and make things feel an awful lot worse than they in fact are.
Yeah.
So
I've got a little recommendation for you. So I was at an event and a gentleman said, "Oh, you should check out this new Calm app, which is like backed by Tony Robbins and stuff, or Tony Robbins being one of the investors." And I play it at night time. It's about 50 quid a month. So it's not the cheapest app, but it's all about, like, they've done through science like the right sound waves and stuff like that. So they've got like a few meditations on there, like like re-energized in 15 minutes, but they got some deep sleep ones. So sometimes if I'm really struggling for sleep, I'll put the 8-hour deep sleep on, and then like knocks me out straight away. I actually have a better quality sleep on it, so might help.
It's really, really actually quite interesting how you can talk yourself out of having a good night's sleep. So I used to have a business coach, and he actually taught me a bit of a trick. And whilst it sounds a little bit woo-woo, it actually works. And that is to actually tell yourself that you will fall asleep within 5 minutes of getting into bed, and that you will have a good night's sleep. And it's really odd, but it works.
Yeah.
So the more you sit there and say to yourself, I'm going to have a bad night's sleep. Oh, this isn't working. I can't go to sleep. If you tell yourself you're going to have a good night's sleep, once you've got that repetitively going, it works.
Yeah.
I can't credit the guy with being the guy that came up with it, but it really does work.
No,
So
real.
you do that every night.
Actually, I don't need to anymore, but if I do have a bad night, or if I'm particularly stressy over something, I do actually, subconsciously, I actually say it, so my lips don't move, but I actually say to myself, why do I find it so easy going to bed? I can go to sleep just like that. And I do not have a problem. If my wife actually says it's a curse, I snore, right? Most people snore. And she finds it really annoying that I can, within 5 minutes of being in bed, be asleep. And it doesn't matter what bed, it doesn't matter where it is, it doesn't matter what's going on outside. Within 5 minutes, I can be snoring.
Yeah, the power of the mind. I mean, the narrative that we tell ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I think it's, if we put a microphone against everyone's head, I think we'd be shocked by the shit we tell ourselves.
I do
Joe.
totally agree.
And how helpful it can be. Whereas if you're saying nice things to yourself, yeah, I do believe in that.
See, I can get off to sleep quite well. My wife will say, how can you do it?
Yeah.
Literally, I can be lying there and just fall asleep. Obviously, there's odd occasions when you've got something on your mind or something.
Yep.
But then I wake up quite easily. So often if a dream comes to an end,
Yep.
or and then you need the toilet, or the
Yep.
cat meows, or something, like there's a noise out in the street or something,
Yep.
I tend to then be awake,
Yep.
and then I'll be starting thinking about something, and then my day started.
Yeah.
And that can be sometimes as early as 2:30 in the morning, but then I tend to go to bed around 9 o'clock.
Yep.
So I'm an early riser. So actually, I tend to get my most done at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
Okay, well, we're on sleeping patterns then, so let's just dig into that slightly. So you're at 9 o'clock in sleeping.
Yeah, give or take.
time-
It's
what
about
time?
9:30. There are the odd occasions where it's one or the other. And I might have a little nap on
Yep.
the sofa watching the TV in the early.
Okay.
Yep.
But we tend to have dinner about, 6:30, 7 o'clock. So might have a little nap around 8:30 watching the TV or something like that. But yeah, we tend to go to bed around half.
What time are you at?
Around, I would say on average around 4 o'clock. There'll be some occasions. So this morning, about 2:30, 3.
Blimey.
And then, but get a good amount, because it's a scenario where we can do a lot of work out of hours or something like that. So I can get all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no one else is up at
No, yeah, exactly. And,
unless they're coming in from a night out. they're not
well,
up.
exactly that. So yeah, and then I'll try from an exercise point of view, like around 5, 5:30, go down on the Peloton and stuff like that. So that's ideally where I am. But yeah, I don't tend to have to set an alarm. I'll set an alarm if I know I definitely, just in case alarm. But I won't, like I've got to get up tomorrow, ideally by 5:30, but I tend to wake up about 4:30, I'd think. So.
Relatively early night, so sort of 10ish, 10:30, and then like you, I don't actually find it that difficult to fall asleep. It's when you wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm trying. Whereas in the past, I probably would have done what you did, and actually just wake up at 2:30, 3 o'clock, try and get back to sleep for half an hour, and then just give up, and then get up and start cracking on. Now I'm just thinking to myself, actually, it's probably a good idea to try and get sensible level of sleep. So the latest little thing that I've been doing is, which is only the last few days, is which is an idea that a friend gave to me, is I'll put my headphones next to my bed, and then I'll put them in, and I'm started listening to a history podcast, and then what I've found is that I'll listen to it for about 10 minutes, and then I'm falling asleep. So it's just that trivial thing that enables you to sort of take your mind away from the stuff that's sort of whirring
It's
away.
distracting your mind,
and
basically,
you're
isn't
actually
it?
just
Yeah.
concentrating on something else that's, you know, a little bit interesting, but not like that stimulating, and use that as a means of going back to sleep again.
I mean, there's odd occasions when I've woken up early in the morning and go, well, I've actually got nothing to do from a work point of view. So I'll stick my noise cancelling headphones on and stick one of the meditation apps within Peloton system, and like, you know, the sleep side. I think it's, for me, is taking my brains to talk, going through stuff, whereas actually having that external, like, list, music.
It's like a pattern disruptor.
Yeah.
Because you're like whirring away with your own mindset, and then you're like, actually, now I'm getting distracted by this history lesson.
Yeah, or
I don't
focusing
really
on that
care about
person.
too
Yeah.
like slow down the machine. Because when the machine revs up really quickly, that's where like stress comes from.
Correct.
And it's like, oh shit, I've got all these chemicals going through my body, and I can't actually like get a grip of it. And now I'm agitated, and now I'm anxious, and I can't settle. Yeah. One thing I found actually recently on that really helps me, Newcombe's a good one, but like if I can't sleep, I'll just go and have a cold shower. And then if I have a cold shower, even though in the morning it wakes me up, in the evening if I have a cold shower, it will just reset my system, and then I'll go to sleep.
So it's really funny. Like, I'm completely opposite to you guys, and I get a really solid set of sleep from 11 o'clock till 6 o'clock, and I get that virtually every night. But I have no electricals in my room whatsoever. Nothing. None of my clock sockets are on.
Yeah.
My phone is on aeroplane, so it's receiving no signals at all. I don't listen to anything before bed. Don't have a TV in the bedroom. Don't watch TV. The bedroom is just for sleeping. There or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And the whole point of that is you get your body used to, okay, I'm in the bedroom, I'm going to sleep. That's what this room is for, right? So one of the things that I actually found was when I would wake up before I'd gotten into this sort of sleep session that I'm in, as I was doing that, I was watching a YouTube video. I love history, okay? So, but then what would happen is I'd start watching the YouTube, and then I'd switch it off. And then I'd be asking myself questions and trying to reason whether or not the information they were giving me was correct. I found it far better to literally have nothing, absolutely nothing in that room whatsoever other than the bed to sleep in.
Yeah.
Because you have nothing to look forward to. So even something like a shower, if you wake up, if you have a shower 5 days a week, for argument's sake, at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's very, very easy for your body to turn around and say, right, I've woken up at 2, time for a shower. Yeah, so what you actually, and what I found has worked for me, is when I wake up, I don't even look at the time. You can tell what time it is there or thereabouts by the light that's coming in or not coming in through your window. So all you do is you say, right, it's time to go back to sleep again. Why is that? I feel so happy going to sleep. Anything positive, and you just go back to sleep. And whilst that sounds easier said than done, it's much easier to detrain yourself than it is to train yourself to do something. So it doesn't take long for you to watch a podcast or read a book or have a shower. Or
It takes
even-
me ages, to be fair.
Yeah.
My missus will tell you that it's completely inaccurate. I'm like good half an hour in the shower.
Yeah. and I mean, because one of the things that I'd actually read was
I'm just literally standing there.
was listening to rain.
He's falling asleep standing there.
Nodding off.
Honestly,
He's
she
got a
was-
seat- have you got a seat in the
just
shower?
sorry to digress.
Yeah,
right,
no,
but-
you go for it.
Sorry to digress, but
Yeah.
she rang me this week and was like, George, and we're busy people, aren't we?
Yeah,
We're
for
running
sure.
companies and stuff like that, and I've got kids, and she rings me and says, like, we've got to talk about something. And I was like, okay, what is it? She's like, yeah, the water bill. And I'm like, what's going on with the water bill? So it's gone up. Okay. How much has it gone up? £25 a month. I was like, babe, I'm being serious with you. I've got bigger things on my mind at the
25p,
moment
yeah.
than at 25.
Okay.
She's like, I was like, me or our daughter likes having a shower now. I love having a shower. For 25 quid a month, it's not a conversation for half an hour.
That is very true.
Yeah, so, you know, I just thought I'd throw that in on this podcast.
So we all know your water bill's gone up by 25%.
as yeah, bloody inflation. Actually, whilst we're I'm just going to segue slightly. Let's just do a couple of quick fire round questions because we've obviously covered like stress, we've covered motivation, we've covered courage. I want to get to know you guys a little bit better. So let me start with this. I want to know your favourite drink. Okay, so I'm talking like going out drink. Or actually, no, what am I prescribing? Just your favourite drink would be a good place to start.
Black coffee.
Black coffee. Yeah, I'm a fan of black coffee.
Yeah, black coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favourite at the moment is an Italian lungo.
Okay.
But I have different coffees at different time of the day, different strengths, and then decaf towards the end of the day.
Mate, you're like a full-on connoisseur of coffee.
I like coffee. Yeah, I like coffee.
Marks out of 10 for the coffee that was served.
Yeah.
Yes,
this
pretty
afternoon.
reasonable actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty reasonable. Normally you find in hotels they burn the coffee, so
You can breathe a sigh of relief now, Josh.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I'll tell Exton.
yeah. So no, coffee's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite of all time?
It's called a Paggio, and it's an Italian espresso. It's a strength of 9, so the strength ratings do go up to 10.
Right,
Pretty
okay.
strong.
So I'll be pretty wired after this.
Yeah, kind of, but it's got a really nice earthy taste to it. So it's the sort of thing that you have first thing in the morning.
And where would I have or find one of these?
I'll send you some.
Thank
Do you
you.
have a do you have a coffee machine?
I do at the moment, yeah. I've got I think it's Tassimo.
Okay, yeah. Well, you may get it. If not, what you can do is you can actually buy the pods that you make yourself,
Okay.
and you can put it in those. But
I do love an
You have to
Americano.
buy a new coffee machine.
See, I'm glad I've unearthed this about you because now we can share black Americanos and
yeah, black Americano is the way forward. I think milk is it's
overrated.
not my bag.
Jeremy?
Well, one of my sort of little hobbies in my spare time, which I've sort of got into in the last few years, is I do a little bit of wine collecting. So I particularly like French red wines, and I've got a few of those in my cellar. And if I'm treating myself, then I will drink typically a Bordeaux, a nice Bordeaux. But if it's a going out drink, then I probably wouldn't drink that if I was going out. It'd basically be lager or ale, depending on what mood I'm in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mr. Cole?
This sounds a bit boring. Primary is drink a lot of water, but when I do drink, it'll be a real ale or something like that.
Okay.
Kind of like going to like some tap rooms and little microbreweries and stuff like that, or try to support like little businesses like that rather than buying all the big brands and the big names and stuff like that. So, like, you can find me in a tap room if there's one or something like that.
I mean, if you're doing cheese and biscuits, it has to be port. That's the only way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I do drink red wine as well. I've been
You and
known to-
Jerry could share a
I've
glass?
been, yeah.
He's got some good ones. Okay, let's go to food. So on restaurant recommendations. Favorite restaurant?
See, I like my food. All of them.
springs to mind.
Figurati in Southampton are very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, really good restaurant.
Figurati's fantastic.
It is good. Yeah.
Chris will be very happy about this.
Or alternatively, if you want something a little bit different, Ottoman Kitchen in Southampton,
Yeah.
which is effectively an indoors kebab house, right? But it's a kebab to die for. Unfortunately, my body can't allow me to eat anymore because I'm on one of these wonderful diets, but it is fantastic food.
Right, so Figurati. Black coffee and Figurati. That's got to be a good night out.
Yeah, it is a very good night out.
Jeremy?
Well, again, it depends what mood I'm in, but if I'm in a sort of down and dirty mood, then it's a curry house all day long.
Which
After how many bottles of wine?
Which one? I mean, well, the Coriander Lounge in Southampton is very good.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's always a good bet. But if I fancy something a little bit more refined, then I'd probably go to somewhere like the Chesil Rectory in Winchester, which is always serves up a good plate of food and a nice glass of wine.
Very nice. Right, come on, Steve. Let's pin you on one.
McDonald's?
Oh God, I don't know the McDonald's for what 15 years. So yeah. See, I like Figurati and the Greek. I like a good Greek meal as well. So it's difficult. It does depend on the mood. I like a good curry. We got the Gandhi in Winchester does a good curry as well. That's good. Done that a few times recently.
Well, it's all right. You gave a few. We'll take Gandhi, the curry house, and Coriander.
It really does depend on the day, the mood, whether I'm dieting or not dieting, and things like that. Really.
And also, just to finish off that point, if a hangover cure is needed, then it's a sausage and egg McMuffin from McDonald's.
Yeah.
See,
Agreed. I did actually have one this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't had a McDonald's for a long, long time. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, I really appreciated you opening up on that little, as I digress on those questions. But let's come to Richard's main question.
Right. Well, my main question is quite an interesting one. Why have you chosen Bizpedia to be your networking platform of choice? So the reason for the question is really simple. I wanted to know why people network. Some people do it because they want to earn money. Some people do it because they need the support that's given. And some people do it just because they want to further their knowledge. And I wanted to get a grasp of the people that I'm networking with, what it is that you're actually after. So that's my question. Why have you chosen Bizpedia to be your networking platform of choice?
Josh chose me.
Nice.
Great answer.
He came to my office and said, "I've started something new. Come with me."
That was good, like 10 years ago now, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Member number one.
Yeah, you were.
But obviously, it's evolved a lot since then, in a good direction. I think for me, as you know, there's lots of networking groups. Obviously, we were a member of another networking group together. I think they all have their different uses. For me, Bizpedia, I would say, is more the relationships. I know Kaylee gets frustrated when she does her quarterly reviews and says, "So what can we do for you?" And I was like, "I'm fine, thanks."
Yeah.
I know that frustrates her. But the relationships I've built along the way. Now, there's some people in the room that I do business with, or I have done business with in the past. I think it's just that wider community for me. Compare it to other networking events, businesses or networking sessions and stuff like that is, they're referral based. So you're there to find business for other people and then find business for you. Yeah, that works for me, but that's it. I'm in a space where actually for some it's quite easy to refer stuff to us. And they all have different, again, I've built good relationships out of those groups as well. But yeah, I would say Bizpedia's, we've had some good fun along the way. We've done some good trips, had some good stories, things to remember, things to forget. But yeah, that's it for me.
It's like some market research for me. I do ask myself this question all the time as well, to be fair. Jeremy, thoughts?
Well, I've been a member of Bizpedia now for probably 8, 9, 10 months. And during that time, what I've found is that it's a really great opportunity to build really positive, deep, close relationships with but the people in your group. I think the Winchester group, which is the group that I'm a member of, is about 15 people. But also you get to have many, many interactions with the wider Bizpedia community as well. And I suppose the final point actually is that the events that get laid on, they're both varied, but also really, really good fun and high quality as well. Cut above any other networking events that I've been to in the past. So really nice, positive people that you meet. So far I'm really, really enjoying being a member.
Thanks. We love having you. It's like a little testimonial round.
Indeed.
So all the Love Josh session.
Absolutely.
And obviously the wider team now.
Yeah.
Why
did you join?
Funnily enough, actually, it almost answers your question, Steve, of how do you switch off. I just find Bizpedia helps me switch off. Switch off in one respect and switch on in another. I love the events. The events are great. Funnily enough, I didn't want to join a networking system that was all about how much money can I gain, how much business can I gain, because I have enough. I don't really need loads more. What I need is that support network and the friendships, and I believe that the level that people in Bizpedia play at are, most people are of the same ilk. In fact, these two gents have just said exactly the same thing. They're in it for the friendships, the long-term friendships. Business may come, it may not, doesn't really matter. What matters is there is a network of people that are in the same boat as you. Therefore, it makes it very easy to know because you're meeting them on a regular basis. Outside of a business environment, you'll get to like them quite quickly, and that builds trust. So your personal network grows, and that's what I'm after. Don't get me wrong, if somebody wants to hand me a business deal for £1 million, help yourself, please do. But actually, I'm more after the long-term friendships. Yes, I was in a previous group with Steve. Knowing that he's in this group is great, because I know the kind of person that Steve is. I also know some of the other members, and they're all upstanding citizens. They're all really, really good guys. So I call it scaffolding. You guys are the scaffolding that keep me upright all the time. So yeah.
Well, look, we really appreciate having all of you as members and giving us the vote of confidence and being a part of the team. So yeah, thank you for always contributing. I mean, BizPedia as a team is made up of a lot of individuals, and they actually make the value, right? So thanks for giving us a vote of confidence to being in it. I know you can't quite get rid of me because you've been on for 10 years, but hopefully we'll work together for 10
Keep following me around.
We're actually going to get into some quick fire business questions now. So first question for you is, I want to know your favourite brands and why.
Breitling.
Okay.
I love watches. Breitling for me is, it offers very, very good quality. It offers consistency, and it also gives you the ability to be able to set different achievement levels. So like you like your wines, I like my watches. Breitling do an entry level watch from £2,500, they're all thereabouts, and they do a top level watch up to about £35,000. And I like collecting watches, so Breitling for me is the first one that comes to mind.
Steve, what comes to mind?
Where I come from, obviously a technology background, is the usual. Like Apple is we're dealing with them on a daily basis. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and Apple devices don't tend to age. So we had a client raise a support case, and transpired her machine's like 8.5, 9 years old, but actually looks like it's brand new. And in her head, she spent like $3,000 on that device. So she's going, well, why is it not working now? And it's like, it's got to the point where it's time to probably cycle it out and replace it with something. So they seem to have a good, solid brand and products, and they seem to build them well. I know they're not for everybody, but yeah, that's the challenge we have. Is they sometimes build the products too good that actually they age well, and yeah, it's difficult for people to justify to buy a new one.
Apple.
Really good question, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of fantastic brands out there. So the way I'm going to answer the question, because I like lots of different brands, is I particularly like it when I find British brands, and it's more an emotionally driven thing more than anything else. So a couple of cases in point would be Loake shoes. Really like English made shoes. Similar ones are like Lokes, Barkers, Churches, all those sort of brands of shoes that get made in Northampton. I've actually got some Loake shoes on today, as it happens. Not that I was anticipating this question. But another example would be Antler suitcases. Give me an Antler suitcase over a Samsonite one any day of the week. I think Antler are a British brand.
Okay, we'll double check that, but
Probably was
very strong endorsement. I like it. Right, now looking for recommendations on either a YouTube channel, a podcast, or a book. Okay? So share some wisdom and a recommendation. Steve, I'm going to come to you first.
Oh, you got to give me a bit extra time. That was literally, you just dropped that, and then it's like...
Okay. I'm still going to come to you first.
See, my daughter and I have started watching Mr. Who's the Boss on YouTube.
Okay.
And he's, I think he's got like 16 million subscribers. He's got a sizable amount. And she just keeps saying, oh, should we watch Mr. Who's the Boss?
So what's that about?
He reviews stuff, he tech reviews and stuff like that. And he goes in with a budget and goes, let's buy high-end stuff. And he buys like a big TV and he buys this and then reviews the product in his house in the real life environment stuff. So it's just that whole disconnecting and doing something, even though it's tech, actually it's just something easy to watch.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I've not heard of him before. I have to check that out.
Awesome. So for me, it would be a YouTube channel or Facebook channel by a guy called Will Lord. He's a very close personal friend of mine, but he's also the guy that taught Ray Mears, Ed Stafford, Bear Grylls survival skills. So he's a practicing caveman, and he's a flint napper. Flint napper, for those that don't know, is somebody that can take a piece of stone and make a tool out of it, a knife or a blade or something like that. And sitting and listening to him hit a piece of rock for 10 minutes, 15 minutes is almost as good as meditation. The guy is about as mellow can be. And I actually find that is very cathartic.
Yeah. Does he do any like event experiences and stuff?
Funnily enough, I'm actually going up to do one with him tomorrow at the Red Rooster event, if I'm allowed to say that, sorry if not. And I belong to his tribe, so I dress up as a caveman, and we all do things like skin deers and cook the deer up and live as a caveman for 4 or 5 days.
That sounds like the next Bizpedia event.
That
I
does.
could- yeah,
I
it's
need
at
some
Thet-
ideas.
It's quite
I'm
a long way
taking
away.
that.
It's at
Yeah.
Thetford. Just quite a long way away. But
Exclusive Bizpedia event.
he is world renowned. So he's on BBC. He does documentaries for Discovery Channel.
Will Lord.
Will Lord.
Okay.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing how that goes.
Absolutely.
Might need a little hook
Any
up.
pictures?
Yeah.
Have you had a
Oh yes, that'd be good.
Jeremy?
So the podcast that I listen to quite a lot is the High Performance Podcast, which is fronted by Jake Humphrey, the sports presenter. They've done probably hundreds, if not thousands now, podcasts. The format typically involves an interview with either a well-known figure from business. I think they did Barry Hearn once, or a well-known figure from sport, or maybe a well-known figure from the arts or something like that. And they dig into that person's journey, how they've got to where they've got to today, what challenges they had to overcome, and what their journey looked like and how they got there. It's quite an inspirational podcast if you're looking for some inspiration, and also it's pretty informative as well. So if you're looking to get on in business or in life, then I'll recommend that podcast and giving it a listen.
Nice, thanks, gents. Last question on this before we wrap up is I want you to give a shout out to a local supplier that you really recommend. Okay? So someone that you use, that's the supplier that you would recommend and want to give a shout out to. So we're going to finish with a bit of appreciation.
Okay, so for me, definitely a guy called Pat Lawson from Corporate Needs. He does all of my uniform, and his attention to detail is very good. His quality is just as good as the next guy, but the one thing that I like about Pat is I can phone him on a Monday, tell him that I am absolutely desperate for some random high-vis jacket for my guys that they need, and I can guarantee you he'll be able to get hold of it within 2 days, and if I push him hard enough, he'll have it printed and out to me on the Friday.
Nice.
So Pat Lawson, Corporate Needs.
Cool, Pat. Steve?
Come to me a minute, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
So I'm going to come back to the food theme again, and for all you cheese lovers out there, Tunworth cheese, which I think is a Hampshire-based producer, Tunworth. It's basically an English camembert, and it's really, very, very nice. You can get it in most local supermarkets. Waitrose, I think, probably sell it. So it's well worth a look if you're into that sort of thing.
You are big into your British brands, aren't you?
I do, yeah.
Oh, I
yeah.
love it. Go Tunworth cheese. Right, okay, Steve.
I'm going to go for the beer side of it. There's a little microbrewery down in Lymington called the Brew Forest, run by a brother and sister. Fantastic little setup down in the small industrial estate down there. Yeah, I thoroughly recommend popping down there. They're open like Wednesday, Thursday, and over the weekends. And on Fridays, typically in the evening, they'll have a food truck that comes down as well, so you can have beer and different types of food depending on the diary and what's in the events thing. And then at bank holiday weekends, they tend to have food all weekend. So
Nice.
the Brew Forest,
Okay, good
thoroughly
down.
recommended.
Jeremy, Richard, Steve, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on to
Thank
Team
you.
Talks. Thanks for watching, everyone that listened in. I really appreciate it. Until next time, keep smashing it. Bizpedia out.